I've had a lot of people contact me recently wanting to know the different kinds of mediums that you can use inside your sea head. Most people are familiar with the peat moss and also sawdust, and a few people are aware of coconut coir or core, depending on how you want to say it. So I thought I would go over different mediums that you can find. These are carbon-based mediums designed to decompose and compost along with your waste. The primary purpose of the mediums is to basically remove the moisture or absorb the moisture that's on the outside of the solid waste, which is what causes the smell. There's many things that will do a good job. Let me start out first with peat moss, because that's the one that most people are familiar with. This is peat moss, and as you can see, it's dark. It's also crumbly. When you buy it, you can get it in a bag. You can also buy it in a 3 cubic foot bale. You can get it at Lowe's or probably Home Depot. We buy ours at Lowe's. You can probably get it in any garden center. You do need to be careful that you get dry peat moss. They do sell wet peat moss, and it will not work. You notice it is very fibrous. You do have to break it up. The bale will be packed pretty tightly. Break off a chunk and crumble it up, and then pour the contents into the toilet. It has some advantages. The biggest advantage is that it's dark in color, which helps hide your waste from view. The biggest single downside that I know of is that it can be very dusty when it gets dry, which means when you're pouring it into the toilet, and even sometimes when you churn it after you first charge the toilet, you can create a cloud of dust that will settle on the inside of the toilet and need to be cleaned. It runs about between $12 and $16 for a 3 cubic foot bale. Will last 2 people about 2 years if they use the toilet every single day. The next thing that I want to show is coconut coir. And if you look at it, you'll see that it really is similar to peat moss. It's very fibrous. It comes in a hard block, and you have to break off a section of it and add it to some water, and it will break down over time, but it is a little bit labor intensive, which is really the biggest downside to it. Runs about the same cost as the peat moss, but it comes in a smaller block. You can buy what they call Cocotech coir at hydroponic stores. About $12 for a block, and a block when it breaks down is probably about, I'm going to say, 2 cubic feet. So it'll last a good long while. It's not expensive. The advantage of buying it in a block is if you have restrictions on your storage, such as on a sailboat or in a boat period, that can be very handy. The next thing I want to show you has basically many of the benefits of the coconut coir. These are equine pine pellets. You can buy them at any horse tack store, or you can also get them at Tractor Supply. As you can see, this is a compressed sawdust, and they use it in the floors of the horse stalls to absorb horse urine, which it does a really good job. To use it in your sea head, you shouldn't use it directly like this unless you're just trying to absorb excess moisture in the solid waste container. If for some reason some urine gets in there or becomes too damp, you can add equine pine pellets. It doesn't take many, and they will absorb the moisture and dry it out so that it can be poured out. But if you do want to use this outright, then you basically add a little water. You take the canister that came with the toilet, fill it full of pine pellets, and then add about a quarter of the canister in water. You can pour it directly inside the toilet when it's empty, and give it an hour or so. Come back and churn it, and you'll wind up with this right here. As you can see, this is reconstituted pine pellets, and they do produce a sawdust. Now you can see it's not, they haven't completely broken down yet, but they will as they absorb more and more moisture. Two downsides to this is that it's white, so it does highlight your waste. It's also very fine, which means that it can become harder to churn sooner than the others as a collection container begins to fill with waste. The advantages are it is very, very inexpensive. You can buy a 40-pound bag for $6, That will last you a long, long time. It's also compact for carrying on a boat. The next one I want to show you this is cedar cat litter. This is one of my favorites. One of the nice things about it is they've gone to the trouble of removing all the dust, and they've also sifted it so that it's the perfect size. The biggest downside to it is it's hard to find. If you go online, they'll advertise it in places like Walmart and Winn-Dixie and other stores, pet stores, but I've had a hard time locating it. This I bought at BJ's. Now they don't carry it anymore, unfortunately. Works very, very well. Has a slight cedar smell to it. If you can find it, it's a little bit more expensive, but to me it's well worth it. Now I'm getting into, these are my favorites. The problem with them is they're a little bit harder to find. This is cypress. These are cypress cuttings. Almost, I hate to call them sawdust. They're not really a dust. But this is from a cypress mill where they rough cut the lumber prior to kiln drying it. This stuff works very, very well. One of the big advantages of cypress is that it absorbs a tremendous amount of water, and that's the whole principle behind using organic wood-based mediums. They also, typically, wherever you can find those cuttings, they'll also sell this, which are the planer shavings when they mill the lumber. And these, the lumber has been kiln dried, so the shavings are kiln dried. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the very best product to use. It does cover the waste very well. It absorbs a tremendous amount of moisture. You can buy both the cuttings and the shavings, planer shavings, at a cypress mill for about $20 for a trailer full. So that's probably enough to last you a lifetime. If you have some place you can store it, that's the big issue. I carry it here at the yard. If you're ever in the neighborhood, I sell 5-gallon buckets of this compressed for about 20 bucks. So stop on by and I'll square you away. And finally, this right here this is red oak shaving. This is the exact same thing. It comes from a planer. It's made from red oak that's been kiln dried, so it is kiln dried shavings. You can get it in red oak and white oak, and most places that make custom cabinets make them out of red oak or white oak. So usually they'll give it to you. You can haul away all you want. They're just looking for some way to get rid of it. I've gotten bags of this stuff, more than I'll ever use. It's also in my yard. If anybody wants some, they're welcome to it. But as you can see, this is a really good product. It's free, most places, easy to find if you can find a cabinet shop that makes wood cabinets anywhere around your neighborhood. And another one of my favorites. That pretty much concludes the demonstration. If you have any questions, email me at sandygraves@chead.com, SANDYGRAVES @ the letter C-HEAD.com.